Even if you watch this during the day, it is going to scare the crap out of you. So, let's talk Pulse. I love horror movies, but I'll say this might be one of the only horror movies for me where I cannot watch it by myself. There are two things that make the movie scary. There's something that makes it scary while watching it, and then there's something that makes it scary that makes it linger for hours. And even I watched it again 2 days ago, and I'm still freaked out about the ideas in this movie. The movie takes place in Japan, and it's two separate stories. On one side, we're following a group of young people. They're working on a project together. The project comes due. One of the people that is working on a disc ends up going AWOL. They look at this disc he was working on, and they find some very disturbing images. There's an image of the student himself in front of his computers, and they see faces inside of the screen. You then have another story that they follow, a separate character. It's a student who gets set up to get on the internet. Again, early 2000s, and he starts to receive these very, very creepy videos of people who are just utterly depressed, utterly lost in these very dark spaces, and it sends these messages of help. It seems like these entities are creeping closer and closer into the world through computers. First of all, on the surface level of what makes the movie scary kind of while you're watching it, it's not a jump scare type of movie. Instead, you might follow a character as they're going through a room, and then all of a sudden you will realize that there's a figure in the back of the room that they don't see. It's an encroachment of something that's unfamiliar that is so scary. Another part that comes with the lore of this story is that whenever a ghost makes its way into the real world, a way that you can contain it is by putting red tape on your door. So this symbol that you start seeing, because the ghosts eventually start overtaking this entire part of Japan, is that you start to see more and more red doors throughout the movie. And the more that you figure out how scary these ghosts get, that one symbol of just seeing a door by the end of the movie is terrifying. So on that surface level, there is so much horror ingrained in the execution of this movie that it makes even the most bona fide horror fan really creeped out by this movie. Beneath it, though, I think is a much scarier idea that's going on, and is probably even more prescient today than it even was back then. You never get a clear-cut someone standing up and saying, this is why all these terrible things are happening, which I think makes it even scarier. But one thing that you can tell for sure is that what the ghosts are doing to people on Earth is making them experience intense levels of loneliness, which then causes people to either commit suicide or disappear entirely through just total dread. And there's no way that it's an accident that the way that these ghosts end up communicating or making contact with humans is through technology. The movie takes place in a technologically advanced city, at least to the point you would expect in Japan in the early 2000s. It's about how technology has a seductive quality to it, and the more that you get sucked into it, the more you isolate yourself from everything in the real world. And the more that you do that, the less of a person that you become. And this movie takes that, pushes it through with a terrifying idea, executes it wonderfully. It leaves enough mystery so that you can take this story and figure out what some of the mystery is for yourself, and it leaves you these dark avenues that you can go down on your own. And because it makes those, mysterious parts of the movie so enticing, it makes you want to think about it more when the movie's over, and that's another reason why it's just so scary. There's a scene wherever one of the characters goes into one of these forbidden rooms. It's the first time you see one of the ghosts in full form. The fact that it is able to create a scene so scary with no flashy effects at all. It's just all tone, it's all camera movement, it's all facial expressions. It's so scary. But there's a version that came out in 2006. Total trash. Ignore that. Don't go anywhere near it. Thank you very much for watching. This has been 5 Minute Critic, and be sure to subscribe for future updates on reviews and movie news.